Hello. Today on Flipping the Table, we offer our fourth and final episode from our special Old Salt Festival series. Co-hosts Coco Sanabria and Michael Dimmick shared two quick conversations with impact investors Kat Taylor and Emma Ractliffe. These guests understand that capital is a critical tool in any effort to advance a regenerative agriculture-based food system and a rural renaissance, both of which are needed to heal the health, the environment, and the political system which our nation rests on. We think these pods are the perfect bridge to the next series we will record at the Terra Madre America event in Sacramento that will begin a week from now. To learn more about Terra Madre Americas and the Roots of Change Slow Meat Pavilion, which will be a centerpiece at that event, please visit the Roots of Change website. Enjoy the show.
This episode ends our series recorded at the Old Salt Festival on the Mannix Ranch in the spectacular Blackfoot River Valley of Montana last June. It was an unforgettable 3 days of meeting remarkable people focused on healing our planet and rural communities long harmed by big food companies that operate with one primary goal: to maximize profit. They do this at the expense of most all else. The modern capitalist system has lost the healthy guardrails placed upon it after the Great Depression of the 1930s. And today we suffer from the loss of the American people's sense of common purpose that emerged from climbing out of that Great Depression and defeating the fascism and nativism that caused World War II. Today, a dog-eat-dog mentality in business, in government, and community appears to predominate. I believe that our affluence, our technologies, our sense of national power disconnected the majority of Americans from the physical and psychological realities needed to maintain a healthy population, resilient communities, and democracy itself. So now we suffer from climate chaos, diet-related disease, massive levels of mental illness and addiction, and of course, mass casualty events from deranged shooters. Then, there are the terrors faced by our lowest paid essential workers, most of whom are immigrants, millions of those who are undocumented due to extreme partisanship that blocks immigration policy reform. Yet most people I speak with, whether right or left, politically, are very worried about this nation and its future. Like Roots of Change and our allies, the Old Salt Festival and its speakers, makers, cooks, ranchers, farmers, and attendees are pursuing a better food system and a more equitable economy by supporting the regenerative agriculture revolution. The food producers and the eaters who support this revolution believe land is kin, meaning that the landscapes and communities on those landscapes must be cared for as we care for our closest family members. Sadly, too few capitalists who are at the center of power in this nation are acting to right the harms. But in this episode, Coco and I share two quick conversations with a pair of capitalists who are doing as much as they can to support those people and enterprises seeking to reestablish right relations among our fellow humans and with nature itself. The first conversation is with a past guest, Kat Taylor, co-founder of Tomcat Ranch, Tomcat Educational Foundation, and Beneficial State Bank, for which she serves as the board chair. Kat is in partnership with communities across the United States to restore social, racial, gender justice, and environmental well-being for an equitable and inclusive world. Her work focuses on changing the financial system for good, cultivating a resilient and diverse food system, and fostering equitable community-led development. Our second conversation is with Emma Ractliffe, Chief Investment Officer of World Within, a creative investment firm prototyping new financing models that decentralize control and ownership, putting power back in the hands of communities. With a background in impact investing, Emma has been exploring what it takes to move capital in ways that build a more equitable, local, and resilient future. I take heart from the fact that these two movers of capital are representative of a larger movement of wise, future-focused investors making capital available on reasonable terms that unleash creative solutions. And this must be done if the food system is to be restored to become a problem solver rather than a problem causer. So let's begin. Kat Taylor, great to see you here at the Old Salt Festival in Helmville, Montana. What brings you?
Oh, I am so honored to be here. I always wanted to come. Thanks to Cole Mannix and the whole family and establishment putting this wonderful festival on. We were invited to come talk about ag finance in particular, but we're part of the movement as a ranch holder at Tomcat Ranch, looking at regenerative agriculture as one of the greatest delta solutions we have for the cascading crises of our time, and just a better way to steward our wonderful earthly home and feed people well and have equity and justice and everything else.
Well, Coco and I had a chance to hear you speak this morning, and you said some very exciting things. You talked about the kind of concept of an ag bond because of the value you see that can be generated from what regenerative ranchers are doing. So why don't you explain to people what you're thinking about that?
Sure. So at Tomcat Ranch, primarily we de-risk and broadcast in an attempt to scale regenerative practice. We have to backfill the research agenda and the evidentiary base for that. So, for instance, we're part of the Rangeland Monitoring Network, 110 ranches collecting the same data sets for 14 years now, because we asked the wrong questions for a long time in industrial ag. We know that regen ag works to provide all the co-benefits that we have seen on property and in markets as well. Carbon resequestration, water quality, quantity, and storage, biodiversity above and below the ground, animal welfare, human health, the restoration of rural economic resilience, and political stability. Like, this is a large menu to choose from. And the carbon resequestration is possibly the biggest delta solution also that we have, because we can quell the emissions of the modern industrial ag system, 30 to 40% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and resequester carbon every single year in the gigatons. So that's what we're pursuing, but we have to have a theory of change. And one of the primary one is that we need to affect the supply and the demand side of the ag markets. Every producer knows that you sell first and you plant second. So how can we create the dynamics for the ag markets to demand regenerative product? And so that's very producer focused. On the demand side, it's a lot easier. There's a silver bullet called government procurement or aligned procurement. School Meals for All in California was passed first in the nation. Has 6 million.
You did a lot to help have it.
And you too.
Yeah.
6 million children eating good food is a giant demand trigger to the supply chain. On the supply side, though, it's more silver buckshot. There's 26 levers we identified just in our musings that need to be pulled. They're all the levers that currently subsidize and embed the industrial system. It's not a natural system. It's heavily subsidized. So we don't want a system that's ultimately subsidized, but we need a cold start catalytic situation of changing those levers. One of the biggest levers, I knew I would get to your question in a minute, is finance. You know that we started a bank as well. Finance is the most powerful.
Beneficial bank?
Beneficial state bank. Finance is the most powerful industry in the world. It drives every other industry. If we don't get it aligned, we're not going to get the others aligned. And ag finance in particular is not only a huge barrier for regenerative production, it's a giant and immediate opportunity. And that's how we came to work with Zach Ducheneau, formerly head of the Farm Service Agency.
He was here this morning. He gave a great talk
this
with
morning.
you. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so if I can just drivel right on into it, Zach identified at USDA, which is one lender in the farm credit system, that we have misperceived, possibly intentionally for, honestly, profiteering. But anyway, at risk in the ag markets. The loans at the USDA have a less than 1% loss rate. Often they're covered.
Which is unbelievable.
Which is unbelievable as a person in finance.
Right.
That's something. A 10% internal rate of return.
Which is also unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And
that's hard to get today.
Totally. And it's the envy of every fiduciary investment manager.
You double your money in 7, so it's a great investment.
Yep. And it acts like an annuity. So it's a strip. It's uncorrelated economic cycles. Many of these loans have a 95% USDA guarantee, not all of them, but many. So that kind of annuity style return with a government-backed guarantee starts to look like a treasury. starts to look like a treasury.
Say that again. Oh my God. I mean, that is
to us anyway.
I mean, but seriously,
Yeah.
that is a huge thing.
Yeah, it is a huge thing because, understandably, fiduciaries, managers of large endowments and investment pools and everything, they need a reliable strip like that. It keeps them above the rocks. It's reliable and it's a very good return. So Zach pointed this out to us, and he said the problem is there hasn't been much competition in the farm credit markets. USDA is considered the lender of last resort, which is not correct under statute, but that's what everyone thinks. And so if they get any offer of credit in the private farm credit markets, they think they have to take it. And I can tell you, as a person who's part of running a bank, debt is not good no matter what. You actually need good debt. So the problem with farm credit has been that it is largely recaptured in 1 to 2 years. It has a reasonably high interest rate on it, but it's more the recapture rate that's a problem. So it traps producers in a cycle where they're having to spend all of their production income on repayment of the principal. They cycle in and out of it, in and out of it.
1 to 2 years, they're out.
And then they have to go back in. So they never have any predictability of ample additional production income. So they can't invest in innovation or invest in the net equity of the business or get retirement assets or send their kid to college, ensure the succession. They're working 2 and 3 jobs off the farm, things like that. So Zach said, let's go in, consolidate, restructure, and refinance these loans because we think we can do them on basic unit economics in a way that returns about 4/5 of that production income to the producer for all those beneficial activities.
That's 80%.
Yeah. So you don't need to prescribe what they're doing with it. Producers understand that soil and the health of soil is what they need to have a reliable business. So they'll make good choices with it. It's returning capital allocation to the producers instead of leaving it all in the hands of finance.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, as you, I think, indicated, it's almost been like the ag lending institutions have created a way to keep the farmers in debt in a way.
Yes, and I'm trying to be more diplomatic than I usually am because sometimes there's just sort of sleepwalking in financial markets, and they don't realize there's a better way to do business. So this is a huge...
It's a pattern. It's a habit.
Yeah. This is a huge financial opportunity for capital, just as it is a huge financial liberation for producers. Everyone's going to do better if we can right-size.
So let's talk about how you think you can assemble the capital you need to actually kick this off.
So the capital pathway that we're hoping to pursue is that first, philanthropy family offices will provide catalytic capital to invest as in a pilot in a structured credit vehicle, one that's designed to be pooled, diversified over time with liquidity, and then move it up market from there. So then maybe a larger offering of, say, $100 million from family offices to sort of proof of concept. Zach is, and we're going to help him wanting to start an investment bank, a native-led investment bank, to raise capital in a more appropriate form.
I like that.
From there, you can march up, of course, to pension funds and insurance and reinsurance. And
well, once you prove, like you said, you're going to proof of concept.
Yeah.
How long will that take?
Not sure, but when you return production income to producers, they use it beneficially in a remarkable period of time and have real effects. I mean, you can talk to the great scions of regenerative agriculture, especially in regions not like mine that are not drought prone. You can turn land around pretty fast. And someone at the conference this morning was saying that the risk reward return sort of profile of ag is way out of whack. And it's partly because it's lumpy, large-scale landscape style, but we know how to solve for that too. We can do portfolios of this kind of financing in a way that allows capital to be diversified.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I definitely want to follow this and keep up with you on it. One last quick thing. In recent months, the new administration has been doing a lot of interesting things that are pissing off a lot of farmers in this country. We're seeing it wherever we go. Immigration, trade. Do you think this might allow a realignment? Because I saw you really speak to farmers. I mean, I don't know exactly who's in this crowd, but you said some very progressive things that might not be that popular in Montana.
Yeah.
But you got a big ovation. So I'm curious, do you think that there is an opening for a new kind of alignment?
Yes. And We pursue this in the great state of California, which is perceived to be crunchy granola blue, but we're actually a purple state, and we're getting stuff done. And I would say what we need to deliver to the political base that can welcome us back to a stable, beneficial, inclusive democracy is one that delivers actual populist benefit for working families, not rhetoric.
Good. Well, thank you, Kat. Really good to see you here. Travel well and enjoy the evening.
Thanks, you too.
We hope you were inspired by Kat Taylor's work to reorient lending to farmers and ranchers. And before we jump to Emma Ractliffe and the good world of World Within, let me share that Tomcat Ranch and 15 other regenerative meat producers, 6 renowned chefs, and 3 artisan butchers will be featured in the Slow Meat Pavilion on September 26th through the 28th at Terra Madre Americas. We will also record a series of live audience podcasts over that weekend with ranchers, advocates, and policymakers participating in the regenerative revolution underway. This is the new biannual gathering and is the sister event to the Italian Terra Madre Salone del Gusto, held every other year in Turin, Italy. The coming Sacramento event is hosted by Visit Sacramento and a long list of founding sponsors, including Roots of Change. Delegations from up to 13 Latin American and many states from our own nation will be in Sacramento to greet those who attend. We hope you will join our team there to see, taste, and buy the good, clean, and fair foods and beverages promoted by the Slow Food movement. Slow Food and its founder Carlo Petrini are among the formative influences that led Michael Dimick to Roots of Change and helped advance the good food movement around the world.
Emma Ractliffe, great to see you here at the Old Salt Festival in Helmville, Montana. What brings you?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Well, I've heard about the Old Salt Festival for a long time and how fun and amazing of a weekend it is. So part of the reason is that. But also I think because I think a lot of us here are interested about thinking about how do we create like a better future, and particularly a better future as it relates to food systems and agriculture. And I think it really starts from culture and community and connection. And I think that's kind of the ethos of the festival and kind of what they're doing here. So.
And World Within is your organization.
Yes.
And Coco and you and I spoke yesterday about what you're doing. So why don't you tell people the goal of World Within and how it started, and just give people a feel for it.
Yeah, well, we're a very new nonprofit. We really just started this year. The rain is crazy, but...
Yeah, crazy rain.
We are a storytelling and investment collective focused on supporting organizations that are rebuilding community wealth. So on the studio side, that's really like trying to shift the narratives and tell the stories of people that are thinking about wealth and business in a way that's about kind of community and place and kind of resiliency and kind of broadening the definition of success away from just like monetary outcomes.
So you're making films when you say studio.
That's films.
Mm-hmm.
Films, podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
kind of multimedia, but really our focus is films right now. And then on the investment side, it's really funding those same organizations, so resourcing them with capital and kind of support in general to kind of build out communities that are kind of resilient and focused on environment and social outcomes.
So we met you actually through Matt yesterday, Jorgensen.
Yes.
So you have invested in his project, Revillage.
We have, yeah.
Okay.
Right now we're really focused on projects that have multi-stakeholder governance and economic ownership models. So Revillage is a great example. As you might have told you, they're based in Grayton and thinking about putting community infrastructure into community ownership. And so for us, that's like a perfect alignment and exactly the kind of organizations we're trying to support. So, and we invested in him and hoping to tell some stories this summer about kind of the community and thinking about how to kind of fight gentrification and kind of take back control of their infrastructure.
Can I ask, so what brought you into, it sounds really like storytelling. And I'm wondering, I think stories are incredibly important with anything that you're doing. If you're not able to tell the story about it, people aren't going to know about it. So what brought you into storytelling overall?
Yeah, well, it's funny because for me, I actually come, and so does Rustam, my co-founder at Word Within. We both come from the investment side. He was working at a family office. I was working kind of on the finance side within kind of food systems. Obviously, that's still a core part of what we're doing, but I think through that work, we kind of saw how important narrative is for kind of understanding what are even the possibilities and redefining how we think about things. And I think we're stuck in a very linear narrative that kind of defines success in one very specific way. So yeah, just realizing the power of storytelling and kind of helping us think through different ways we could build organizations and businesses and an economy ultimately.
Interesting. Old Salt Festival, I mean, this idea of culture, I mean, there is lots of culture here. I mean, there's music, there's food, there's a lot of kids' activities going on. Is this the first time you said you've been here?
It is, yes. It's the first time I've been here.
And how did you hear about it?
I've been in the food systems for a while. We also invested in Old Salt, so that's one of our investments as well.
Oh, okay. So that makes real sense.
So yeah, so we've gotten to know Old Salt pretty well over the last year or so. And
so when you say invest, so are these? I mean, people are paying you back. These are loans. Is that so? It's debt.
Yeah. No. So it's not debt per se. We're a nonprofit. But we invest into companies, flexible capital. So in the case of Old Salt, it's actually preferred equity. But it could be debt in other instances. And any capital that comes back over time would be recycled back into a new investment. So it's kind of, there's probably not a great exact term, but like charitable investment fund would be one way to kind of understand.
So you're very flexible on your terms.
Very flexible on our terms.
And you work with the people to figure that out.
Work with the people to figure that out. And often it's turned out to be actually equity because that allows us to kind of invest along the project and kind of share in the risk as well.
And then do you enter the board like investment bankers do?
We do not, and that's one of the unique things about, so far we've been focused on cooperative structures, and that's one of the unique features of that, which is that within like the cooperative principles, we don't believe that just because you're the investor, that you should necessarily have the final say over how the business runs. So in many cases, we serve as an advisor and we weigh in on issues, but we don't have official economic or governance rights over how Old Salt would make decisions.
It reminds me of Zach Ducheneau yesterday speaking, and then Kat Taylor kind of. So you guys are all of a certain species of funder, it seems to me. That's cool.
What are you looking at? I mean, you're here in regenerative ag and you're doing a lot of environmental and climate work. Are there any other areas that you're pointing your focus to, or what? For investments or something that's caught your attention?
Yeah, well, for us, it really is about thinking through community wealth and what would it take to rebuild that. We've seen so many communities across the country that have just been drained of their resources, their capital, their talent, everything. So another area that I find fascinating is community banks and CDFIs, because those are the kind of financial institutions that have been in communities forever that have the relationships and the contextual knowledge to be able to basically push capital out to where it's needed to achieve the outcomes that we want. And in terms of community banks, we've gone from 15,000 in the 1980s to only 4,000 today. So again, this like massive drain of capital away from communities. So that's one area. Another one is energy. So thinking about the green transition, that's like something that everyone's excited about, but we're in many cases seeing big oil being replaced by big solar. So private equity going into communities, buying up huge chunks of farmland and turning it into solar panels. And that doesn't seem fair, equitable, or really what we want to see at all. So thinking about, could we develop decentralized local community solar gardens that are owned by the communities and developed in partnership with them in a way that benefits them and not just outside investors.
I like that. I was recently in the Central Valley talking to a farmer, big farmer down in the Central Valley, good farmer. In California, they're closing down a lot of the west side. They're not going to let them, they don't get water. They're losing their water rights and water allocation. So that land is going to go fallow. So his argument is that we should, if we can't use it for agriculture, we got to use it for something, because otherwise it's it's a stranded asset, really. So he thinks there is, in some cases, justification for a solar farm on ag land.
Yeah.
Former ag land.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I think everything is contextual, and I think it's really just about thinking through how to do it in a way that is actually what the community wants. So I also have worked with, I don't know if you guys know Dirt Capital, but they help
I know of them. I don't know them.
Yeah, they help first generation farmers get on land, and in some cases they subdivide 10, 20 acres into solar that helps generate some
Cash flow.
Yeah, cash flow. So it can be done. It's how, and
Right.
with the kind of
Who made the
input.
decisions?
Who made the decision, exactly.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I do like this idea of basically giving producers more agency. That's what I hear, or communities more agency.
Yeah.
In a world in which the bureaucracies or the banks or the investment bankers or whoever, bondholders are controlling a lot of stuff. So it's really nice that that there's this effort that I'm hearing here that I haven't really heard before, to be honest. In certainly 3 conversations we've had, people are talking about this. So.
Yeah, and in a world where everything is more consolidated, where everything is made by, wealth is more consolidated and owned by fewer and fewer people, and without much input from anyone else.
Right. So how do you find your investments? Do people reach out to you, or do you reach out to people? What's the search methodology you use?
Yeah, a combination of both. I've been in the food systems for a while, so in that space, I kind of
Know people.
Know people, have a network. We've had some people reach out to us. We work through organizations that are supporting cooperative ecosystems, so various kind of like nonprofits and organizations like that. And ultimately, we look at seeing whether they can answer a few key questions for us, like, are they a seed of the kind of future world we want to see? Are they doing it in as ecological a way as possible? Do they have a shared governance and economic model? And can they be economically viable? Like, do they stand a chance to be economically viable? Because I think it's, for us, business is an engine to drive impact, and in order for it to do that, it needs to be able to be viable so it can continue its mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to keep rotating that money through, right? Revolving your fund.
That's the hope.
Yeah. So how long have you been at it?
So we are super new. So we launched in January this year. Old Salt was our first investment. We've now also invested in a energy project, Cooperative Energy Futures, a community-owned solar project in Minneapolis, a community bank in Cincinnati, and Revillage, and looking at a breadfruit cooperative in Hawaii right now. So
Okay. So these are all the United States.
yes.
And is that the focus, the U.S.?
That is the focus, again, because of the need for context and understanding and relationships. And that is something. So for us, it's kind of modeling what we can do, and instead of growing and whatever, just kind of helping others do it in the way that would work for them in different contexts.
And are you on the hunt for more projects, or are you going to sit for a while?
We are on the hunt for new projects. We're focused specifically on cooperative structures, which is quite limiting.
Right.
So always looking for new projects that fall into that category.
Well, why don't you talk a little bit about the project you're running for us that has to do with infrastructure, because there might be some things, data that we can generate that would be helpful to you.
It might be interesting. So we're working on a piece of the Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Project, and specifically we're mapping middle of the supply chain infrastructure across California. And that's any infrastructure that supports small and mid-sized producers specifically. So anything from, let's say, canning tomatoes to making bread, or, so many things in between and beyond that as well. But we've run into, since we are interacting and really focusing on the small mid-sized producer, really opens up the door to a lot of different models of processing that don't necessarily come to mind immediately. Making soups that are then frozen, for example, in like a commercial kitchen style, so much smaller impact. But we've also had a lot of conversations as it relates, I think more specifically to you, about this co-op model and what is necessary or useful for people on that size scale of farming to be able to access their communities. Something that comes to mind is we were down in Riverside, and they had an opportunity to do, we'll call it value-added processing, but it was really a food hub through a school. And there were just a lot of barriers that they encountered after being in service for many, many years. And they were servicing the Riverside School District, LA School District, Long Beach School District, and I think like 4 or 5 others. So quite a
millions of dollars were flowing through it.
Millions of dollars, like hundreds of thousands of kids, like across all of those school districts. And because they weren't able to continue through there, they're now looking at a new opportunity of how they can expand a more personal co-op model within their community to kind of replace that. But it's so interesting because we've been traveling across the state, and we keep hearing about it from other regions as well. Well, have you heard about what Riverside was doing, and have you heard about kind of the structure that they were at? Because it was something that was working, and there was
union trouble. The union shut them down.
I was about to ask, like, what led them to...
The union wouldn't let them use the kitchen anymore.
It was a combination of that and because what came from that was the difficulties in trucking and moving specifically into the school district and having that many vehicles like come in.
That was the truckers union.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a lot of planning involved, but really just something that was really positive for the community overall, that kind of follows that same idea of how can you benefit not just your community, but also expanding it into what's your, call it, regional community too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it makes people, it's not easy, but it allows people to kind of learn how to act with agency and kind of generates conversations and, in a way that people aren't used to be doing because of that lack of agency.
Yeah, and you know what the thing that, because we see a lot of, or through the years I've seen a lot of this too, you have the socially minded, the people that are change makers, but they don't often have very good connection to financial people that share a similar vision. So that's why what you're doing, I think, is really important because like I was even thinking about those folks down there that we met that are associated with that. I mean, it would be really nice to connect you just so they can understand, because I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't feel like they were talking a language of finance, which often happens.
Yeah.
People have ideas and they have good hearts and they are producing a product, or they have a way to, produce or distribute other people's products. But I think they struggle on the business side.
Yeah. No, I would love to be connected. And I think that in some ways it's maybe intentional that finance is kept as this like opaque, inaccessible thing, when in reality it's not that complicated. Mm-hmm. And it's just a tool to support business and support what you want to see done. But by keeping it inaccessible, you kind of retain control.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's interesting. So is this something you think this is like your life's work, or it's too early to tell?
It's definitely my life's work. We're at the beginning of our journey. So, our big ambitious goal is to ultimately play a role in transforming the finance system towards one that supports the kind of economy we want to see. Obviously, that's a very lofty goal, and how we end up exactly serving that goal. Right now, we're just a small charitable loan fund. Into the future might shift, but definitely the commitment to changing the financial system is kind of what I'm focused on.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's both finding some good projects that have potential, so that you get that return and you can keep the flywheel going. Are you also looking for more capital for people to invest in your fund?
We're always looking for more capital. It goes both ways. You need capital, you need projects. So yes, and also interested in helping others move capital into the space in whatever way works for them. So in addition to deploying ourselves, we also advise others, who might have their own structure already, but are figuring out how to shift it into kind of more community-owned projects.
Are you an MBA?
I am an MBA.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And how many MBAs that would be, I mean, it's somewhat unusual in my mind, but do you find some of your colleagues from, let's say, you went to school with, they're interested in what you're doing and they're fascinated by it? Or do they say, oh, that's crazy? What do they say?
Yeah. I mean, I think they think I'm a little bit crazy and eccentric for doing what I do. I think they think it's fun, but no, unfortunately, they are still stuck in this narrative, or at least I view it as a narrative that kind of maximizing profit and doing good is aligned. I mean, that's the motto of Stanford, basically, where I
That's where she went.
yeah, okay, exactly. And so, which is it's a convenient narrative, because I mean, we all want to, be part of the top 10% and, have rags to riches stories and tell ourselves that we're doing good for the world. And that ethos is obviously very entrenched in MBAs and very entrenched in the Bay Area also, where I am. Like this, like, do good.
I grew up in Palo Alto.
Make money, do good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
like, whoa. I mean, I think I'm the only one of my friends in Palo Alto who didn't become a millionaire.
Yeah.
I'm serious. It's like that crazy.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, that's so crazy. And it's so focused on tech solutions to, environmental and social problems. And yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I think all of us here see that there's that's a limited view.
Well, and I wonder, I do think, I've heard people talk the phrase paradigm shift or paradigm change a lot this weekend in the talks that are going on behind us here. And I just do think that I do see it happening in finance. You're here.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been great. We got to end because they're starting the talk behind us. But anyway, Emma, it's been great to talk to you. Thanks very much.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys as well, and I hope to stay connected.
Yeah, we will, because we're all in the Bay Area. All right, take care.
All right.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Please share it with your friends and listen to our next monthly episode of Flipping the Table, hosted by Roots of Change, a program of the Public Health Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to building a healthier world.